Empowerment as a stage of growth. Hello, I'm Brenda Gervais, and I'm here as a soul who's embodied her own soul's vision of what love is for all of us. And I'm here doing these lessons of love for many, and few will understand some of the words that I use, because my own soul's determined that in order to portray myself as beautiful and wise and loving, in essence, right? It's more like the disconnect from our hearts as thinking we know we're in a lighter state of trance. But when we go to the embodiment of who we are, we often can just rise in a vision of vibration very fast in order to allow our soul's vision to come through for ourselves or for others. And it doesn't mean that it's not part of the whole vision of who she is at soul, but it's not the whole enchilada. Okay, and this is what we want people to understand, is that there are certain souls who say, I don't understand the wording that you use in some of your messages. And if you are curious about that, we are going to be portraying ourselves as a unit of energy, because that's where she comes through as. More than one is what some people would say, but it's the unique opportunity we have to unite with others who are on the screen or those who are on the other side of the veil already, who have their souls on the line saying, I love this woman's vision, but I have a problem with her heart. This would be some people who would say it's the nature of people who say, I have to fight against the tide of awareness of a certain soul's rising vision about who is beautiful and wise and loving on the soul level, and who is just a caretaker of the hearts of many. That is the nature where Jesus, as he was, landed on this plane, and he is still in that vision of I am of caring and loving energy and adoring energy for all of the souls that do indeed envision me as part of their own hearts, okay? So it's not about saying there's a disconnect, but we want people to understand that Brenda is undergoing her own empowerment stage of growth where she wasn't relying on his soul to lift her up. She never did for the most part. It was always her own soul's vision of what love was and was to be. And this is part of the discussion that many are having in their own ways as to how do I empower myself to be little and small in the minds of many. Okay, this is what many are experiencing with her in their minds on the soul level, right? You didn't make it there yet, Brenda, is what she would get told, because she's not portraying herself as if she's flying on the highest clouds of wisdom. But they do indeed come through in her own heart, and in her own wisdom, she is utilizing that aspect to guide us into a more direct experience of who we are as souls when people reach out to her and ask her questions about who they are from a soul level understanding and from the nature of what is your soul doing for you in this moment and in this breath. That's one phrase that most people are not aligned with, because it is a very loving and caring and adoring soul that would say this is the nature of how we rise in our vision. We allow for ourselves to be free of the conditioning of those who want to undermine our behavior, perhaps, and not the aspects of soul that we portray ourselves as. So you understand that when we look for empowerment as a stage of growth, it is more about how do we get out of the victimhood of who we are? How do we get out of the challenging of everyone, correct? Brenda is one who will gently ask questions of most that will allow them to see themselves in a more enlightened state, perhaps, or a more bountiful state of awareness. You're always beautiful, guided, and loved is where everyone is. They may just not realize it as of yet. Okay? And we do inhabit the beauty of the wisdom of each soul in essence when we come through. So some souls are saying, but I was told that I needed to be somebody else in order to make it to that wisdom that was granted to his soul when he rose up on his own in this vision on this plane. That is that nature of many of those who are wanting that wisdom on what that was that he did and what he granted himself to do in order for others to align with him, so much so that he said, thanks, but no thanks, Brenda. Right? That's where some souls are. They don't want to hear the religious conditioning of the books, because in essence, many will soon find out that those indeed are not the words that he himself chose to put upon this plane in many ways. They were guided souls in some ways. There are plenty of souls who are guiding themselves to be the channels of his soul or the channels of his wisdom. And each soul has its own breath and wisdom in it. Okay, so that's why Brenda's not demeaning your vision when she says, reach for your own soul and I can get you there. I know how to get you to your own soul. And when you decide that you do that vision, you'll realize that you're creating with everyone around you most often. And that can be a boon for a lot of people to go, gosh, that feels so good. I love everyone around me as if they were my own. Right? Brenda's more like the mother to all of us than she is the daughter of another soul. She takes care of your hearts even when it goes against her own nature in her mind very often, because it is her belittling of another soul on another plane that taught her the lesson that most of the souls on the other side of the veil are very harmless in their vision of justice if they have been, quote, done wrong by her on this plane of justice, right? Many do not understand the nature of what empowerment means. It doesn't mean we're trying to compete with others as much as we are coming into our own vision of strength and inner beauty and wisdom. And that's why most who say that my own wisdom is to align with my family tree, we would say we understand and love that vision very much so, but some of us need to free ourselves from those things that hold us back from becoming more of who we are truly as souls in our hearts. Our minds often play tricks on us, is what some would say. Brenda has dealt with that vision as well, being, quote, the trickster of her nation, right? She's had to hear from so many souls who have these different identities in various systems of enlightenment. And she said, I'm not going to be making any tricks for anybody because it's confusing enough as it is when you go through this process without trying to align with someone who's going to say, I'm going to play the role of a trickster. These are those archetypal visions as well. Okay, so Brenda knows how to vibrate in the vision of the beautiful wisdom of archetypes, but to be honest, once we hit soul, we start to look back and say, yeah, I could see where I played this role in my life as a mother, as a daughter, as a caretaker, and as an honest woman who says, I was tired of being the caretaker of everybody around me. And I said, I understand the wisdom is important to my family, but it is more important to me to reach out to those who are ready to receive the wisdom as it is versus as it was. And this is what's aligning her with her friends and family from distant realms of love. They come to her and say, you're on the right track, honey, right? No, most don't come to her in that way. But she has a certain soul who does call her that vision, and it's her grandmother most often, who that's going to hit her hard because she is more aligned with the nature of the love of her family than most would ever know. However, we want you to understand that her own empowerment was hindered by the growth of their souls in their vision of what they thought they needed to do, correct? She was loved and adored and cherished by them for the most part, but they've had their issues with how she portrays herself on the screen, if indeed it is against another soul's wisdom that they happen to love, cherish, and adore as well, correct? Brenda's not here to undermine the success of other people's achievements, but she is willing to tell people, I understand where people are, but I also aim high and far into the future. I know what's coming. These are those prophetic visions that she gets handed to her, not only by the books of old. These are not the books of old. These are the wisdom keepers that she was working with. Then she said, my own soul came in and aligned me with the true nature of what the Seth soul was and the envisioning of the alteration of the energy that allowed for our souls to create from a place that all souls create together in unity and harmony at some point. So it's not about saying you're belittled just because the system of old is still vibrating in the beauty of it, but it's not where we're headed for the most part until the next century is where it's more concrete in the minds of the majority, or definitely the majority of the souls in the next century will have a different outlook towards the nature of the books of old as cherished wisdom handed down by generations and generations of souls who had different ideas about how to be in the moments in which they vibrated on this plane. Because you see, most people are not necessarily utilizing the books as they are. They're listening to those souls who also create from those books and have unique perspectives to bring through that allows them to see them as wise and conditioned as well. We all have our own conditioning, but we're breaking free from it as much as possible. And it is not the easiest thing to do, because it's not about saying that conditioning in itself is bad, because that's just the nature of living on this plane. It's about the nature of what is being told to us and why. Okay? Why am I being told that I need to be empowered is what many are asking themselves on the screen, right? Do I need to be empowered in order to do this? No, it's a self-centered vision is what Brenda was being told at some point, to align with the nature of who she is as soul, and then say, now I can handle the visions of those of others. It is true that she can do that vision, and when you are one-on-one with her, you may get aspects of your soul that are brought through from higher levels of wisdom that don't necessarily align with what you think you are in your mind, because your soul is everlasting and more than who you are here. And it's a beautiful expression no matter what. Unless you are conditioned in the mindset that there is something wrong with you here, then you might actually want to aim for that beautiful soul that's on the other side of the veil that's telling you, I am indeed the beauty that you rise into. And that's what we do. We rise into the beauty of who we are as soul. We don't necessarily need to see it as a separate vehicle, perhaps, right? Others are saying a separate vehicle is needed for some souls because they feel like there's more awareness in certain souls' minds about how to do the work of love for everybody, rather than somebody who's just so special that he's the only one that, makes me laugh or smile. Those are some souls who have those connections with those on the other side of the veil, and they allow those souls to cajole them into being more like who they were, perhaps, or who they are here. Brenda has to deal with that kind of vision as well. The entertainment of who we are, the vibrancy of who we are. How do we get that vision? You see, these are elements of conditioning as well, depending on what plane of awareness you're rising in. And so many would say, I want the guaranteed outcome. And Brenda's like, it's about the journey, baby. That's how it comes through, right? This is her soul. We just sit there and we go, we ride the ride. We land into first base, right? She hits home runs and she hears it. That's why it's like her idea is like, it's more like a sporting event than any kind of, travelocity, journey or anything like that. She's also being told about her mother's health as well and where they're going to land for Christmas. But what we want people to say is that you have your own vision of what Jesus was or is, and others would utilize terms of friendship by saying it in a way that was vulgar. And Brenda's not going to do that vision, but she has her moments of it in her mind, hearing those who are more conditioned to say, I'm going to strike out at those who disagree with my belief system because it's what's making me feel safe here on this plane. And we want people to understand that that's a valid reason for utilizing something, but it's not going to give you the expression that you really want if you're going to go for the next level of soul. Because in all honesty, you're going to be building the trust with your own soul's vision. And it's not necessarily always going to align with certain books or certain guides. Okay, because you are Jewish perhaps, or you are of Muslim and or whatever. Okay, how many people understand they're aiming for those higher visions of love? They can call it whatever they want, it doesn't matter. But in the end, they're still souls here on this plane, rising into the beauty of who they are. Some would say, I'm of spirit. Some would say, I'm God. I'm an aspect of God. Whatever it is. But you are definitely, most assuredly, a soul vision for the majority of the souls that are rising in this plane. Okay, it doesn't mean there aren't other aspects of souls that are creating from different realms of magic and mystery. And that's what we want Brenda to understand, because she has connections in other realms that are not exactly human in form as well. And those would be those natures of archangels that are actually more of a different species than what we would attribute to them. Because a lot of people have those ideas that archangels are just humans in a different form. They have their own aspects of what that really is. And she doesn't create with that vision very much. She also has other visions that are coming through saying, we love you, we adore you, we want you to continue with empowerment. So when we feel empowered in who we are, we can say it clearly, or we can just embody the vision of, I feel very strong and confident in who I am, and I don't need to bluster my way through the vision of what love is for everybody. I'm not going to align with everybody, because in essence, I do have my own visions of objections to people who are holding other people back based on the books of old. That's one of those biases that I work with often, trying to hold my heart up high enough, right? No, it's long enough to see the beauty in the vision of limitation that is being placed upon our plane by certain souls at certain places in time. But they are always to be honored for the contributions that they made to where we are in this moment. So now we work from this moment forward. And that's why Brenda is saying it's the present moment forward that she specializes in. She loves the past when it comes to her, in essence, as a moment of reflection of a memory it's like a memory well heard. She'll hear the memories of her own soul as well. And some of them are not the most pleasant, but at least she has an honest assessment on her heart always about where she is and how she handles certain souls who say, I want to make sure you're the real deal before I lay down some cash. Okay. She's got plenty of victims in her mind that she's had to work her way through to say, I'm sorry you don't align with who I am in my mind and in my soul. We do align on the soul level. It means we're just creating in a place that maybe isn't the most pleasant. And that's part of life. That's part of living, and that's part of soul embodiment as well. Because I created from a place of love of all that sometimes has issues with the personal projections that people are placing out. And while I do understand it, it still is harmful to others, and others are feeling the impact of those words to such a degree that so many souls are saying, I'm not even accepted in the hearts and minds of those who follow Jesus and his, quote, savior vision. Okay? Those ideas are long gone. This is the end of that kind of vision. We're moving forward. We're planting the seeds of love for all souls, whether or not you agree with that vision or not. If you need that vision, bullseye for you, right? You've got a target on your back, right? No, it's where some are feeling the bullseye, but it's more about the nature of who are you really when you're in your day-to-day activities, and that's what you're really creating with. You're creating with yourself as a beautiful soul, empowered to be whoever you are in every moment of every breath. So just because someone might challenge you in the nature of who you are, it doesn't mean you have to be blustering your way through this world saying, here is who I am. And that is absolutely acceptable and loved and adored for many. But so Brenda says, when thou protest too much, often it is a backlash against those who are seeing themselves as such, but what they are actually saying is, I am seeing myself as empowered and I need others to see that as well. Okay, it's not a silent vision. It's an empowering statement of here I am. And Brenda knows what that vision is, but she keeps her soul very quiet and don't say demure. She's not demure, but she's like, I am the vision of what that really truly means. I don't hold my breath with love for all souls because I'm guided to do what's right for the majority of the souls most often. Because in essence, it can't be a one-size-fits-all for every soul that's on this plane. We have our own growth prospects and projects to work on. We have the beauty of who we are always. You all are doing the same vision of love for yourself and others that she is. You just don't know what plane you're working with. Okay, you are on the earth plane. This is where people are talking about, but others are in the idea of, I'm in a dimensional attribute only, right? No, you are multidimensional and vibrating in several fields of union and disunion with certain souls sometimes. Sometimes we let go of certain souls and we say, oh, it feels so good. And other times it hurts our hearts because we said, I could have done better to make that relationship work, perhaps. Or I didn't know I was hurting someone and I was hurting them. There are those kinds of souls. Brenda is one of those souls that says, I understand what's going on behind the scene. And I love you because I say that. I don't say I love you. I will say I understand. And even that vision is, I understand that I couldn't possibly understand what it is to be you unless you come through in the vision of my soul as a channel, and I'm channeling the energy of your soul, which is from a different place anyway, so it's not being you, because I definitely don't want to be the empath vision feeling your own vision. But I know enough to acknowledge your beauty and your strengths and your wisdom in each moment and each breath. That's a granted thing. It just may not seem like it because there are other fields of vision that I'm working with. And what I'm doing is I'm working with those souls who are ready to take it to the next level or two about how to be soul visions in the vision of love of all that doesn't require us to bow down to any other soul as somehow superior to who we are, other than the fact that they themselves have their own higher levels of wisdom just as we do. We are all granted our soul's wisdom when we arrive on this plane. We just don't know it in its true form as a soul that we are embodied with already. It's just about what we're creating and how we're creating and how we lift ourselves up to the nature of who am I. That's where Brenda was. Who am I? Okay, that's the first question that we're going to ask people. So it means that when you do that vision, Brenda was like with a blank stare. It is incredibly difficult for her to answer that question because she feels the expansiveness of her soul in so many ways that to try and pinpoint it was almost indescribable for her. So with that, we want everyone to understand that your empowerment as a stage of growth doesn't mean it's a fixed level of achievement. You don't just suddenly go, I have arrived. But you can't get to that feeling where you just know it. You know, it's not like it's to be described by anyone as the right feeling or this feeling is better than this feeling. It's not that. You'll know it when you feel it. You'll go, yes, I am. That's the first feeling. Yeah, I am. Others will know what that is. It doesn't mean that you embody the nature of someone else's soul. It means that you have combined enough with your own soul that you know who you are and you know that you are soul and you know that you're vibrating in the beauty of who you are here at all times, whether or not you feel the energy vibrations through your being or not. Okay, your breaths are proof that you are empowered already. Your breaths are proof that you are loved already. Your breaths are proof that you love who you are already. Okay, but others are having so many issues around some of these topics that Brenda's helping us to explore them from various realms and planes of reality that might or might not align with certain people. So we want to make sure that when we go to this nature of Brenda's going to be introducing various souls, they come to her with the love from that idea that the earth plane has its issues, but it's a beautiful place to rise into. Okay? we rise here. We can rise here. We don't have to wait until the next level of achievement by crossing ourselves over in certain ways. And when people say that, we're not talking about the nature of self-harm. We're talking about the nature of we choose along the path of destiny what is going to be the best moment for us to leave this plane and arrive as souls saying, I love who you are as well. Okay, so with that, I want to say thank you for watching. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, depending on which social media platform you're seeing this video on. And as always, stay curious, wise, and soulful. Have a wonderful day.